Good morning, everyone. It's a little rainy and muggy outside today, so hey, the perfect time to swap out my wheels, maybe, eh? We're gonna switch over to I relaced these Excel aluminum wheels on my stock Royal Enfield Himalayan hubs and spokes. Ordered the wheels off eBay. I don't remember how much it paid, but I'm gonna guess I think this one was probably 130. That one was cheaper. Found it on clearance for I think 80 bucks. And then I mounted up some. What do we have? A Shinko 705 on there, and this is kind of a Shinko 705 clone. It's an IRC tire. It came on the back of the Versus 300, which is over there somewhere, and it has basically 200 miles on it. So I'm going to run it on my Himalayan. They run the same size tire. So yeah, what I'm going to have to do is swap the disc over. And this already has the bearings and everything already in it. The only thing it's missing is the drive disc. The Cush drive will fit on the other side. Same with the front. I just have to put the disc on. I'm going to look up the torque specs on that. And then maybe we'll talk about, when I get the front wheel off, what I do to make sure everything on the front end's aligned. Because there's seems to be numerous reports of people's Himalayans pulling to the left or to the right. And I'll show you what I think causes that and how to correct it. Anyway, let's take a look at these wheels. Okay, these are Excel. What is that? Takasago rim. Please correct my Japanese if that's not right. Like I said, I think I got these on eBay. This 21-inch was on sale. I paid full price for the 17. It might be a ½ inch or more wider than the factory. It's either the same or a ½ inch wider than the factory Himalayan wheel. I don't remember now. But it gives the tire a little bit better stance, I think. Hey, look at that. You wouldn't want to go too far with that because you'll ruin the profile of the tire, and that will adversely affect the handling of the bike. But they're good-looking wheels. They're just not gold. They're silver, and the gold does look good. I'm probably going to take these Mitas tires off, even though there's probably 3,000 miles left on them. I'll put them aside for now. Going to probably go with those D606s over there for off-road activities. And these I'll run for a month or two, see how this works out for the commuting. I ordered a touring seat from India, which landed in Tennessee today. So 2 days after I ordered it, you know, it went over to Charles de Gaulle. It wasn't even there for 15 or 20 minutes, it looks like, if you check the tracking. Right onto the FedEx jet and landed in Tennessee this morning. So that seat will probably show up tomorrow. It's pretty sad that I can order something from India and get it here quicker for free than I can get something from New York. Think about that. Anyway, let's take some things apart here and take a look at some stuff. First things first, yeah, I want to make sure the spacer's lined up, and it is. Check these bearings. Oh, those still feel really good, which they should. They only have like 800 miles on them. Yeah, those still feel brand new. So just going to be a matter of taking apart the other set and applying the disc to these wheels and reassembling everything. Okay, I mentioned that some of the things I would check if you have a Himalayan that seems to be pulling left or right. A lot of that has to do with triple clamp alignment, in my opinion. As always, when you're messing with any of this stuff, make sure that you have some mechanical ability, because getting any of this wrong could kill you. And there's my disclaimer. But the first thing that I always want to check is to make sure this axle is fairly, not loose, but that it slides back and forth without any resistance. If it doesn't, that tells me that, sorry, camera's focusing on the tire, that fork leg is not properly lined up with that fork leg. And that could be a difference in, one higher than the other, one further forward or further back than the other. And all that adjustment is done up in the triple clamp area. So your axle seriously should slide right in with no resistance or out when you're assembling the front end. If not, then that right there will tell you, straight away that something's not right. And if yours is stiff, when you're trying to remove it here, we'll talk about things to check up top here in a second. Let me get this tire off. Okay, so if you're finding that when you try to install your axle, that things just don't line up. Look, see how easy that went in? That's how it should be. This should not be stiff whatsoever as far as sliding it back and forth. Yes, some resistance, but I mean, this needs to be lined up first and foremost. And like I said, that can be triple clamp adjustment, like one leg is further forward, one leg is further up or down, or you've got bent forks, right? If this isn't going in easily, first thing I would do is to make sure that the forks are the same height, right? If they're not, you should be able to see that when you're trying to put that axle in, that one fork is either higher or lower than the other. But anyway, let's make sure that the forks are the exact same distance sticking out of the top of the triple clamp here. Mine has a fork extender, so they stick up a little higher, and I've got this piece on here for mounting my key. Let's go to the other side. Might make more sense. So there you go. So yeah, this distance here, you want to make sure it's exactly the same on both sides. On a stock Himalayan, just your cap should be sticking above the triple clamp, I believe. Check your manual, but I think that's correct. So if that's okay, you can loosen all 4 of the pinch bolts on the top and loosen this main bolt and wiggle your forks around and try to align this piece so that it's lined with that. If the bottom bolts stay tight, the fork is rigid enough that it should auto-correct the top, right? Once you loosen, you're basically unspringing it. You've got pressure. The top of the triple clamp here is not lined up with the bottom. And that's going to cause things to be wonkered this way, right? One fork in ahead of the other or behind the other, however you want to look at that. So leaving these tight, once you've figured out that the fork height is correct, leaving the bottom 4 pinch bolts tight, loosening the top 4 and loosening the main nut will allow this to free play and auto-correct itself, if you want to look at it that way, right? So this should spring back into alignment with that. With this loose, go down and try to put your axle in, and it should go in smoother. If it doesn't, there's a possibility you have a bent fork leg. And a way to check that is you would have to loosen the suspected side and try to twist this and find out if there's a section, even if it's slightly bent, you can detect it by spinning it. It'll get tight at one point, right? And that means that something's just not straight. The other thing that could be causing a Himalayan to pull one way or the other, and I wouldn't necessarily call it pull, it feels like the bike doesn't want to stay in a turn. It wants to straighten up. It wants to kind of resist what you're doing. It's just a wonky feeling when the nut under here that puts the preload on the taper bearing is too tight, or your bearings are worn. But I've seen where this bolt is too tight, and that causes a very goofy feeling in the steering. And those of you that experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. The best way to do that is like if we have all this loose from trying to align the lower fork leg and the axle, is to loosen this and then tighten it to, I want to say it's like 28 foot-pounds, and there's a special wrench for that. And then you want to loosen it, and it's basically one of those go-by-feel things, right? I mean, that's mine right here. Look, I'm not really, it's not flying from left to right. It's just, it's in my opinion, this is perfect. I love the way I have my taper bearings adjusted right now. It is, believe it or not, a user preference kind of thing. People mess with the tightness of their taper bearings and their steering stem all the time that want the proper feel of the bike when they're riding it. I know that sounds weird for someone who may not be mechanical or maybe a new rider, but yeah, that's an adjustment, like a front end alignment adjustment almost on your car. That adjustment adjusts how much pressure and how much resistance your steering has on the steering stem bearings. If you get them too tight, that's a problem. If you get them too loose, that's a problem. I like to be able to take like one finger here, push it, and have it go about that far. Some people like it when you give it a little push like that, it goes all the way to lock. I mean, mine almost does. But that, in my opinion, is a little loose. I don't like that feeling. I like a little resistance in there. I mean, it's not much. It just feels like a nice precision movement right now. And if I had to measure that resistance, I mean, I have a trigger pull gauge. I could measure it, but it's just a few ounces, if that. But anyway, those are things to check. If your axle doesn't go in, like I said, straight or easily, try leaving the lower pinch bolts tight on both sides, loosening the top pinch bolts on both sides, loosening this nut, and maybe jiggle your forks back and forth, your handlebars back and forth a little bit to try to get this to line up, and then move your axle back and forth inside until it feels like it's sliding in and out, with some precision, and you don't have to force it. You'll know the feel when you get it. You shouldn't have to hammer that in or hammer it out. You should be able to push it in with your bare hands, and that means that everything's aligned, right? So anyway, let's swap this disc out onto the silver wheel and get on rolling with this swap over. Okay, once you've decided that you have fixed your fork issue, whether it was stiff, loose, sticking, what have you, don't forget to go back over everything and re-torque everything you loosened. Here, and even maybe check these, right? Doesn't hurt. Torque here, torque there. Make sure you tighten everything back up that you loosened and double check it. Because like I said earlier, messing with any of this, but more importantly, the front end, the steering, and all that, this could get you hurt pretty bad. Anyway, yeah, you guys be safe and make sure you check your work and use your torque specs and your torque wrench and Loctite where it's needed. If you, see if we can get a focus here. If you want your seals to last longer, always clean up your spacers before you reassemble. Yeah, right or wrong, I've always put a little assembly lube back on there so we don't have a dry seal. So anyway, that's just what I do. Your mileage may vary. Looks like these had a little Loctite on them, so I'll put a drop or two on there and then re-torque them at the proper value. I got my torque wrench out here. Yeah. Okay, these look like 8mm bolts, so I'm going to look up the torque value for an 8mm bolt, and we'll go from there. My guess is what, 22 foot-pounds, but let's see what the world of the internet says. Yeah, I think we were ending up looking at like 220 inch-pounds or so. So yeah, that's back together. Let's put the wheel back on. Well, let's clean up the cush drive a little bit while we get it off. Hand the sprocket, put some assembly lube on the seals, and put it back together. All right. We have sufficiently stunk the garage up with brake clean. Anyway, back together. Let's see. Man, isn't it funny how the color of the wheels changes the character of the bike? Looks even more retro now with silver wheels. But anyway, let's double check here. We have torqued. All those were torqued and Loctited. Torqued. Moving around. Torqued. And I also put my short suspension links back on. I put the stock ones on because the bike was too tall with with this seat, I could reach the ground, it just wasn't comfortable. But I have a touring seat coming, which will give me another inch probably, and decided since I was in here tearing things apart and cleaning them that I would replace those links. These guys here, these are from Hitchcock's. They're probably a 1/4 inch shorter than stock, which gives you about 3/4 of an inch, not more suspension travel, but more ground clearance, right? So it moves the tire down about 3/4 of an inch by putting shorter links there. While I had it apart, I cleaned up the chain, disassembled the master link, cleaned up all the old chain lube off of those with brake clean. That's why it stinks in here. Reassembled it, O-rings with some assembly lube. And I'm going to wheel it outside and spray some chain lube on. I use wax chain lube. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps up what we did. Chain was adjusted after I put the links on. And that's about right. We'll write it and recheck it. I usually go for about an inch, 20 millimeters to an inch. And I think that about does it. So, hope you liked the video. Hope you maybe learned something from the alignment of the front end, or at least how I've aligned the front ends over the years. If your bike's pulling left or right for some wonky reason, something's going on with your bearings or your fork alignment with your triple clamp. Something else that could actually be wrong is you could have a bent triple clamp. I've come across that, where the shaft that's pressed into this lower piece that goes up through the bearings is actually bent. This is no longer 90 degrees to that shaft. You know, it's like bent down or up, depending on the impact of the crash. So, lots of things to check if your Himalayan's not riding straight. It needs to shape up and ride straight, you know? Anyway, like I said, hope you guys liked the video. If you have any questions, please put in the comments below. And you guys ride safe, and I'll see you out there. Kaboom. What? Dirty thumb.